When it comes to errors emanating from animation series, Peppa Pig is not one to be left out, as the show is equally guilty of harboring one or two animation mistakes that will leave viewers shocked and bewildered. I mean, some of you would even go back to watch that part again to spot the mistake. Anyway, here are some Peppa Pig animation mistakes that you need to see. We're going to kick off this compilation by paying our respects to our elders by featuring Grandpa and Grandma Pig first. In this episode titled Granny and Grandpa's Attic, we see Mommy Pig driving up to Grandpa Pig's house, and she then drops Peppa and George off there. The moment they enter the house, before they even climb up the stairs, you can spot a sphere-like chandelier dangling down, almost touching the ground floor. But then we could see that as they made up their way to the first floor, the chandelier was almost touching the ceiling. As usual, I try to find an excuse for the animators as to why that was happening at all. Probably a crane was holding it down so they could see on the ground floor, and when they went up, it pulled the chandelier so they could easily see on the top floor? Yep, I'm crazy, but realistically, it's just an animation mistake by the makers of the show, something they would take note of and correct in reference to the future. Being a kid, Peppa would realistically be scared of thunderstorms. I mean, even some adults are scared of thunderstorms. Make a reference to the movie Ted, where a married man is still scared of thunder and has a helping song to overcome his fears. In this episode called Thunderstorm, Peppa and George were playing outside with their dolls and having what looked to be a fake tea party. Until something struck. A thunderstorm, basically. Peppa and George got really scared and ran inside to meet Daddy and Mommy Pig while trying to escape the thunderstorm. It wasn't until they were already inside, safe and sound, that Peppa remembered she left Teddy outside while running into the house. Take full notice of the environment around Teddy. What do you notice? There's nothing there, okay. But then Daddy Pig went out to get the teddy for Peppa because he's a big guy, yeah, and he isn't scared of a little thunderstorm. By the time Daddy Pig picked up the teddy, the previously vacant area surprisingly had two trees standing side by side with Teddy. Yeah, I have the same question you do. Where did those trees literally come from? This particular episode took me back a while to watch again to understand how Peppa's room became a portal that stretched and stretched continuously. This episode was called Tidying Up. While Peppa and her brother George were supposed to tidy up their room and arrange the toys properly, as the room was evidently in a state of disarray, total mess I tell you, the siblings got very carried away and instead of arranging the room, they made it messier. Daddy Pig was making his way up the stairs to check on how far they had gone with tidying up, but to his surprise, they really hadn't done anything. Before Daddy Pig could even say anything, he stepped on a toy car, and like a little jet skate, it propelled him further and further for a really long while. Here's the catch to it. Peppa's room is very small, not even big enough for anyone to skate for half the time Daddy Pig was on the skates, as he kept moving until he crashed into something. Peppa's room became a lounge in a matter of seconds, and to make everything even funnier, when Mommy Pig came up to check on them, the room had returned to its natural and normal state. Freaky, isn't it? Like, where did all that room come from? And also, a not-so-strong detail, but still a detail to note. When Daddy Pig entered the room, you can see a big yellow basket, and this basket was behind the door. It was still behind the door even after Daddy Pig was plummeting forward. No one came close to where the basket was. But then we could see that when Mommy Pig came inside the room, the direction of the basket had changed completely, as it could be seen on the other side of the room. The really surprising thing is that you'd spot more than one mistake in as little as just one scene. You might even start to think the animators are actually making these mistakes to get our attention, as they have now. In this episode of painting, it would seem as though Peppa used some disappearing paint instead of the regular paint we all know. When George and Peppa were about to start painting, we could see three colors in front of them. The three primary colors, which we all know. But for the sake of those who don't, the colors are red, blue, and yellow, with a yellow paint being very close to Peppa. She was actually going to start painting with a yellow paint. As the first scene showed, Peppa dipped her brush into the yellow paint, and it was evident she wanted to paint. But then the camera shifted to George, who dipped both his hands into the blue paint, as you'd expect from a 2-year-old. When the frame went back to Peppa, the paint on her brush had disappeared, as if she had not even used the brush before. That wasn't all though. As the camera shifted back to George, we could see him placing handprints on his drawing paper and having fun. But then back to Peppa again, it was as if the paint magically reappeared on her brush. If this were real life, we'd probably say there was no paint on the brush initially, but the proof is on the internet. Just check out the episode Painting and voila, you have your evidence and proof of the mistake. At this point, we should be expecting mistakes from literally every episode of the show. And finally, before I go, I sourced more animation mistakes to keep you all glued here. We have this episode named Cleaning the Car. From the name, I guess you can already tell what it's all about. Daddy Pig's car was dirty and covered with mud, and he decided that, yeah, he was ready to clean the car. Yes, we know that pigs love dirt, especially mud, as we have seen the pig family on several occasions playing and staining themselves with mud, meaning they like it. But here, Daddy Pig had had enough of the mud stains on his car and wanted to get rid of them. So Peppa and George also came over to help him with the cleaning. They nearly cleaned everything. All that was left was the windscreen and the side window, which were too tall for Peppa or George to reach. But Mommy Pig picked up George, and he was able to clean the front glass window. But then something strange happened. As soon as George came down from cleaning the windscreen, the side window stain was gone, and nobody had cleaned it. Is there a ghostly fifth member of the family we don't know about? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to bring the true answers to your screen soon. Smash that like button and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss anything. Have a lovely day.